Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Divine Attributes, Part 6. Further along the path of divine attributes, two more attributes. These are the references. There are one or two excerpts taken from the meanings of the Quran. And this is our contact. The first slide is some points of interest from our journey so far. The creation of the universe and our place in it as human beings is for a constructive program of, as noted in the first verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we have gone through its meanings in some detail previously as well, which essentially says that there is a program of Allah and it is through true attributes of Rehman and Raheem that it progresses forward. So we have to understand this program in order to benefit from the Quran and become part of this program. This is called the program of Rabubiyat of Allah, divine attribute of Rabb. So it is based on the divine attribute of Rabb. That is why Quran says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We have also seen from our session so far that the creation of man, that is Adam, possessing choice and intent is extremely important and is for a lofty purpose which does not end with his physical death. And that is another important point which we have been repeating previously as well, that we should keep in mind as students of the Quran that we are created for a higher purpose and we know what that purpose is. And there is a big event going to take place in our life when our demise from this earth will take place. So we will be handed over to the next stage of life. He possesses a self with immense latent potentials, that is human beings, and many of these remain dormant and unactioned if he does not bring them out using the Quranic value system. And as we go through these divine attributes, we should look at these very intently, that these are the ones which we have to reflect in our personality after understanding these. Because there are potentials lying within us which are demanding that we should manifest these potentials in ourselves. And it is a sad thing if human beings leave this world after death with all those latent potentials remaining within them and not being brought out and not getting benefit here. And if they haven't benefited here from these latent potentials, then obviously in the hereafter, those latent potentials will be of no use to them, because the self will never be able to reach that stage of development where they can be of benefit in the next stage. We have also seen that man's thoughts, words, and deeds play an important role in influencing his psyche and the psyche of his fellow beings. These verses tell us that Allah as Rabb has defined a clear path for self-development for man from birth to physical death and far beyond. His creation is al-haq, that is, it is for a constructive purpose, and no batil, not for producing wrong results. So all the wrongs which we see in the world are because human beings are not following the Quran. And those who have the book, they are also doing nothing about it, as those who live an unguided life conjecture. Then Allah provides assurance to man that if he chooses to follow the path of Wahi, then he will never find himself alone, as Quranic guidance will take him through every challenge of life presented by the man-made systems. And this is the path we are taking on this platform, that we are trying to figure out that how does Allah help those who become students of the Quran, who acquire Iman, and they are determined to follow this path called Sirat-e-Mustaqim. Next slide is a review of aspects related to divine attributes. As we know, the Quranic concept of Allah is based on his attributes, which are referred to frequently in various verses. If we put all these attributes together, then the concept of the being of Allah emerges from this combination, which leads to creating the concept of that model which is required for the self-development of a moment. We should keep in mind that all the divine attributes which are mentioned in the Quran, if we put them together and understand each attribute and what comes under that attribute, then sum total of that is what Allah is. We don't need to see him because he cannot be seen, firstly. Second is his form, his nature is of no relevance to our self-development. We have to understand that concept of Allah, which is based on these divine attributes. That is why we are studying these divine attributes with a view to imbibe them, with a view to reflect them in our own personalities. Psychologically, whatever beliefs and concepts we form about our life, those affect our outlook. And hence our choices and decision making is influenced by this. And we can check it. Whatever we do every day, we should look at it, that what are the thoughts behind those deeds, those actions which we are doing. So we have to be very alive to whatever we are doing every day if we want to become that moment which is defined by the Quran. When we accept Iman in the Quran, we wish to tap into those potentials to which the Quran has directed our attention from its beginning to its end. Next is the concept of Allah which emerges before us is that of an infinitely developed self, which encompasses all those attributes which are mentioned in the Quran. This means all the divine attributes which are required to be understood and then reflected in our consciousness are preserved in the Quran for all times. What a blessing it is that these serve as permanent values over and above which we have already gone through. What Quran is telling us, that it is a question of changing your psyche, changing our psyche in order to get the best from our own intellect and from our own body and from our own finite life on this planet. The Quran invites us to learn about these attributes and the permanent values, and then through choice start to reflect these in ourselves on a daily basis. And that is the key to success in this life, using the Quranic light. Gradually, we will start to imbibe these willingly in ourselves because we will start seeing the benefit of it. If we are living a life under relative values and then convert our path onto that Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is explained in the Quran, we will see that our outlook, our vision, our insight, all our cognitive faculties will start taking a different route and manifest their effects in the outer world through our decision making, and that is through Saleh deeds. Saleh deeds means all those potentials, all those which are kept within us, all those attributes, all those qualities which are kept within us, we have to bring them out. And these simply we cannot bring out under the man-made system and its values. We have to know these from the Quran firstly and then act on it. Then the Quran signposts this transformation taking place in ourselves to evaluate our character and conduct individually as well as collectively. This is another important point which we have noted previously as well, that the Quran has signposted all different stages and phases through which a developed self passes through during its earthly life. And the ultimate highest point is called Khulqun Azim, which is mentioned about the last messenger of Allah. And this is placed within our reach by the Quran, because as we proceed and we check our own conduct, our own thought process, we will ourselves see a new life has been created within us. In this way, the Quran serves as an external criteria for whatever we do individually and collectively. And that is another very nicely put sentence, that we don't have to go and ask someone. If we know the Quran, and this is the point of knowing about the Quran on this platform, then we can use it as an external criteria and check our own conduct, our own thought process. It's not otherworldly. The next slide is some of following cannot be achieved outside the Quran. Unity among mankind. There are people who say that if mankind is united or all sects of Islam are united, we should forget it. It is not possible except through the Quran. Elimination of fear and grief. And this is a very much cognitive level of issue within human beings. Unity of hearts, that unity of hearts which we can create by coming together through Iman and Saleh deeds that simply cannot be created by any other means in the world. All relationships in the world are based on self-interest, these are biological relationships. Elimination of economic poverty in the world. Elimination of borders and nation states, that is free movement on planet Earth. Because human beings are very much bound to geography, to land, they want to hold on to the material things, and as a result their mind does not develop and goes beyond the domain of matter. UNO based on permanent values. The present UNO, of course we know, is based on relative values. Might is right controls it. Justice and equality. And that is not the human justice and equality, the Quranic justice and equality. True respect and dignity as a human being, that is where there is no discrimination and each human being is valued as a human being by the system. Recognition of the existence of the human self and the issue of its development. This does not even appear anywhere in the man-made system. Understanding the importance of physical death as a stage of entry into the next phase of life. The concept of human accountability at the level of the self. I put down 100% means that there is absolutely no doubt left in the Quranic system of accountability. Whereas within the man-made system, people do talk about cause and effect. They also talk of karma. But all those are very partially accepted by the human mind. They are not fully convinced 100% that they are accountable in every respect in this life. No man-made laws to control other human beings. And this is the biggest curse on human beings, that another equal human being is controlling other human beings and enslaving them to man-made laws. True freedom as defined by the Quran is where we come under the laws of Allah and He becomes the ruler through the Quran. Now next is divine attributes, listing the main ones. We have shared this slide before as well. So what I've done is I've highlighted Malik Yaum over here. We have done Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rehman, Ar-Raheem. And we will do some more as well. But I don't think we will go through all, because all these will appear in any case as we will go through the Quran. So we will get some taster of some more divine attributes, then go back to the Quran. So we are covering Al-Aziz today. And as I said previously, there can be an addition in this list, i.e. the things which Allah has attributed to His self, from which His attribute is defined. For example, from planning of affairs, that is Amr, there is Al-Mudabbir as an attribute. Why do we need Ad-Deen? And we have gone through this verse under Surah Al-Fatiha, Malik Yaum, that Quran says that Allah is the master of the day of Deen. The consequence of removing these tyrannical forces from the path will be that such a system will become established in which neither any human being will be dependent on another human being nor subject to him. In this, the decisions on all matters will be according to the laws of Allah. See how Quran takes out human beings from this whole government, whole rule established on behalf of Allah. It is a rule based on laws, and laws which are transparent, known to everyone. This is that very system which has to ultimately overwhelm all self-made systems of life of human beings. I've quoted this verse 82, 18, 19 over here, which we can have a look in our own time. We have gone through it previously as well, where Quran says, should we tell you what Yaum is? Under the system of Yaum, no human being controls another human being. It is the laws of Allah which prevail, which are implemented, which are obeyed. This verse is translated in English as Master of the Day of Judgment. This is a grossly misleading meaning of the verse, as will become clear shortly. Next slide is explaining root of Malik. The root of the word Malik is given here. The basic meanings of this root are to be master of something and in control, choice and intent or authority. a strong foundation, i.e. that support in which something is established. So in the case of Deen, it is the permanent values, divine attributes, and the Quran serves as its foundation. That means through which some matter is resolved and reaches its desired conclusion. This is why cement or mud is called milakun, because by brick and stone becoming joined through this, each provides strength to the other, and in this way the wall reaches its completion. That is why Quran puts so much emphasis on unity of hearts, because unless unity of hearts are put together under one ideology, system of Deen simply cannot emerge. When this word is used for ordinary people, its meaning generally is of such a type of power and authority through which other human beings are made slaves, that is mamluk. It is termed mulukiyat, and which exists in the man-made system, dictatorship, authoritarianism, despotism. But when it is used for Allah, then obviously this will not mean tyrannical authority. Despite being the creator of everything, omnipotent and sovereign, Allah is not dictatorial. He cannot be dictatorial because He has made all those laws clear to mankind, and He follows His own laws as well. Hence, when it will be declared, to Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, in every instance, this will mean that in the whole of the universe, His dominion and authority reigns. But this fundamental meaning will also be implicit in it, that this authority of His will also be the support for the life and nourishment of things of the universe. Explaining Ad-Deen, some aspects. We have gone through this aspect previously as well, but just to reiterate. Ad-Deen, this is a very comprehensive term of the Quran in which the summary of its whole teaching is encompassed. This is its focal point. This is that central point around which all its components, principles, values, and laws revolve and present their raison d'etre. By understanding the true meaning of this term, Islam can be comprehended. And if the Quranic concept of it is obscured in the minds, then nothing of Islam can be correctly comprehended. And this is a problem under the sectarian concepts of Islam. For example, neither its beliefs and concepts, nor its constituents and commands, nor its objectives and requirements, nor its need and outcome. This word contains vast meanings. On the one hand, its meanings are control, authority, rule, state constitution, law, organization and administration, decision, concrete outcome, reward and punishment, the law of requital. But on the other hand, when this same word is used with reference to human beings, then its meanings are obedience, compliance, submission. And when its reference is to both Allah and man together, then its meanings will be obedience to the divine laws whose consequence manifests according to the laws defined by Allah. Next slide is explaining Yaum. And this term is used for day, period, era, age. This word is commonly translated as day, i.e. that day which consists of 24 hours. Undoubtedly, in the Arabic language, this word appears with this meaning as well, but its meaning is far broader than this. This word Yaum is also used for what we call a period or an age or a stage. Whatever prolonged and extended stages the universe has passed through to reach here, these have also been termed using the word Yaum. And it is from this point of view that it is stated that one Yaum of Allah is equivalent to thousands and thousands of years of your reckoning. In fact, it is of 50,000 of thousands of years. In the verse being discussed, Yaum will mean time or era. So Malik Yaum will mean that period in which that Deen, that system of Deen is established. It has also appeared in the Quran in connection with the functioning of the law of requital. For example, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. So over here, بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ, as a plural it has appeared. We sent Musa with our signs, saying to him, bring out your people from darknesses into light and remind them with the days of Allah. When Deen becomes established, those will be called the days of Allah. So presently there are no days of Allah in the world. Next slide is Deen needs power in the land with its own state. We have gone through this aspect previously as well, but I included it because of Malik Yaum. It is evident from this that Deen is the name of that system which is shaped according to the divine laws, in which every individual accepts the authority of Allah and Allah alone, and in which the precisely correct outcome of his every deed becomes established, which is called a return or recompense. It is clear that such a system in which obedience and submission is to the divine laws is only possible when the Muslim Ummah, that is Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, has its own independent state in which they have full control and authority to implement these laws. And we know that presently there is no state in which Ad-Deen is established, hence we can only theoretically go through these aspects. In other words, for the establishment of Deen, the existence of an independent state for Muslims is inescapable. And as I said earlier, this is taken from the meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. Prior to the establishment of this state, groundwork needs to be carried out, and those who wish to take on this responsibility on behalf of Allah as His companions on the planet need to go through a well-defined process of education, training, and self-development. And this is another important aspect of establishing a state, is that the Quran says that when you want power in the land, you have to go through the procedure prior to getting that power in the land. That is why messengers came first towards people, and those who got attracted by that message, they were educated, trained, and then their selves were developed, and that is how the system took birth. And Quran says, لَقَدْ مَنَ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Allah did confer a great favor on Mu'mineen when He sent among them a messenger from among themselves. So that means when the messenger came, then they became Mu'mineen, and then these Mu'mineen have to reflect, go back, that what they were and what they have become. Reciting to them His verses, carrying out their self-development, and educating them in the book and its hikmat, while before that they had been without guidance. So this is an important aspect in this verse, that people are without guidance when they haven't gone into the Quran. They do not know what lies in the Quran. They have to accept this guidance. And then the next process starts. If they accept Iman in it and the way it explains it and its value system, and they show interest, then come together and then they proceed forward. And this is our efforts on this platform. Next slide is, without power and own state, Ad-Deen is not possible. What is the formula for acquiring power? In the absence of this, living a life according to Ad-Deen or Al-Islam is impossible. So at an individual level, like we are making an effort to make ourselves eligible for that power from Allah by going through the Quran and bringing change within our own self. Ad-Deen is simply not possible. This state is a natural consequence of Iman and Saleh deeds, and its aim is to establish Deen. See how this reality is elucidated in a clear and comprehensive style in this verse of Surah Nur, where it is stated, and we have gone through this verse a number of times before. Allah has promised to those among you who have Iman and work righteous deeds. Very simple formula, but a difficult one to follow. Iman and righteous deeds. That He will of a surety grant them power in the land, as He granted it to those before them. And see, the source of that power is attributed to Allah Himself. So Allah has taken away a lot of worries and stresses from Mu'mineen. Their job is to accept Iman and then work together and do Saleh deeds. That He will establish an authority, their Deen, the one which He has chosen for them, and that he will change their state after the fear in which they lived to one of security and peace. There's a lot of pause and reflect required over here, and we have to go through this verse from the Quran itself, because there is a lot more into it which needs our attention, because it is appealing to our mind and heart and trying to tell us that even if Allah is not visible, but that doesn't mean that this power cannot come in your direction if you follow this formula. It will come in your direction if you keep following this formula and become his companion. They will follow me and not associate aught with me. If any do reject after this, they are rebellious and wicked, and that is the state of the world at present. All these Muslims who are not following the Quran fall in this category of rebellious and wicked. Ad-Deen has two important aspects: establishment of Salat and execution of Zakat. Hence the next verse after the above states, so establish Salat and execute Zakat and obey the messenger who is the central authority of Deen. The last messenger has left and there is no more messenger coming, because the message of the Quran has been fully preserved for all times in the Quran. So it is the responsibility of ordinary Muslims now to follow the Quran so that you may receive Rehman. Next slide is schematic. Deen as a system deals with the physical body and self of man, both intrinsically linked in this physical world. It's a simple schematic, but I think in my view, it carries the message. Children are born as part of the biological process of human creation into the world, and we see it on a daily basis. This birth is not in their control, though they possess the fundamental traits of choice and intent. And this is another very important point, that children possess choice and intent, but they are brought into this world without being asked. So because they are coming here as a biological process. So once we come to the Quran, then we understand this importance of this choice and intent, and then we create a world in which then choice and intent will be implemented. Then people will be made conscious of it. Presently, they are not fully conscious of it. In the world of 2025, there is no system of Deen, hence all children join the man-made systems of the land in which they are born. By following the values of the man-made systems, one simply cannot acquire a Quranic self. Hence, no new life can emerge. Meeting physical needs is part of the manifestation of the divine attribute of Rabb, the responsibility of Mu'mineen. So the issue before us is, though we are born biologically, we have accepted Iman in the Quran, we are interested in the system of Deen, then to proceed on that so that people, human beings, if the system of Deen is established in some part of the land, then at least it will serve as a model for others. And human beings are attracted by something which is better. Human body dies after completing its finite journey, and it hands over human self to the next stage of human life. Divine attribute of Rabb includes meeting the physical needs adequately and creating and providing a congenial environment for human self-development. Acceptance of Iman in Allah, the hereafter, Malaika, the books, and Anbiya leads to the acquisition of that self, which becomes the companion of Allah. And that is where the key is, becoming the companion of Allah. This is the starting point of a new life for which we are provided with a self with the latent potentials for further development. The Quran holds the key for this new life and further growth of this life, and we are trying to know as much as possible about this new life and how it grows further and how one can get Allah's help can come in the direction of those who come together and make a Jamaat of Mu'mineen. We go to the next attribute of today's presentation. Let us look at another divine attribute, Al-Aziz, a root of Aziz. Power, intensity, supremacy, elevation, and protection. It can be that state of man which protects him from becoming overwhelmed, i.e., such an inner hard state becomes created that it cannot be suppressed by anyone. Very important, I have highlighted it that once, and we know Allah is Al-Aziz because nobody can change him. We can supplicate day and night. Unless our supplications are in line with what is noted in the Quran, those supplications are meaningless. The same goes for human beings. Those who become Mu'min and become Aziz, they have to have a very strong inner state of their self, which is very firm on this path, which does not budge an inch here and there, which carries out all those aspects and duties and responsibilities which they have volunteered to accept on behalf of Allah. A hard land whose soil or sand becomes solid with rain, overpowering someone and subduing him by being hard and using firmness. An eagle is called Azizatu Azza, means to become powerful. Azaza who provided power. Some applications, this word is used opposite to zillatu, and its meaning is to acquire power and total authority. There are laws related to the acquisition of power in the land. Over here, we should go through this verse 4139 and 3510. A lot there for us to reflect. Al-Aziz has appeared for Allah in the Quran, i.e. sovereignty and authority is only of His law in the universe and no other power can overcome it. Which means when human beings become Al-Aziz, there is only one power above them, that is of Allah, and all human beings, pharaohs of the world, disappear. They become meaningless because they are human beings like each one of us. So one should never be fearful of another human being. Man possessing powerful status in a society's power structure. For example, Quran has used in some places, I've quoted these two verses, wife of Al-Aziz, for example, in Surah Yusuf. In human society, the Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen can acquire this by living life as per the laws of Allah. Acquisition of power in the world as per the law of Allah. Man can acquire this power, i.e. physical, as well as in the domain of social and collective human life by acquiring knowledge of this law. Next slide is, being on the path of Iman leads to higher understanding. Part of the process of accepting Iman and following this path is to acquire the understanding of the functioning of the laws of Allah in the human world. And in this verse, Quran says, وَرَدَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِغَيْظِهِمْ لَمْ يَنَالُوا خَيْرًا وَكَفَى اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالَ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ قَوِيًّا عَزِيزًا. And Allah turned back Kafirin for their fury. No advantage did they gain, and enough is Allah for Mu'mineen in their fight. And Allah is full of strength, exalted in might. There are two attributes, powerful attributes used in this verse. The coming together of Mu'mineen leads to a unity of hearts with one concrete aim of life defined in the light of the Quran, and this becomes an important signpost on this path of Allah. And Quran says, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَيُطِيعُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ أُولَٰئِكَ سَيَرْحَمُهُمُ اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. The Mu'mineen and Mu'minat are protectors of one another. They enjoin what is just and forbid what is evil. They establish Salat and execute Zakat and obey Allah and the Messenger. And since the Messenger is not there, that means obey Allah and the Messenger will mean the central authority of Ad-Deen. So our efforts over here are to create that central authority of Deen which can attract the power from Allah and can get some power in some land in the world or on His planet Earth. Manifest being Aziz. On them will Allah pour His rahmat, for Allah is exalted in might and He is Hakeem. Points covered here to become Aziz plus Hakeem. So Hakeem is another attribute of Allah. Rabubiyat is supported by becoming Aziz. Allah's book comes with full support of His laws, and Quran says, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ وَرُسُلَهُ بِالْغَيْبِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. We sent aforementioned our messengers with clear signs and sent down with them the book and the balance, that men may stand forth in justice. And we sent down iron, which is material for mighty war, as well as many benefits for mankind. So it is part of the system of Deen that they should do research and acquire weapons as well as a means to defend themselves, that Allah may know what it is that will help him and his messengers unseen. For Allah is full of strength, exalted in power. Following this path defined by the Quran is secured, and this becomes manifested when it is followed. And over here Quran has given the example of the messenger Saleh. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا نَجَّيْنَا صَالِحًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا وَمِنْ خِزْيٍ يَوْمِئِذٍ رَبَّكَ هُوَ الْقَوِيُّ الْعَزِيزُ. When our decree issued, we saved Saleh and the Mu'mineen with him by rahmat from ourselves. So protection comes through rahmat and from the ignominy of that day. For your Rabb is strong and exalted in might. And we can see that over here Rabubiyat includes strength as well as protection. Remaining aware of the risks posed by non-Deen systems is part of this education and training. And Quran says, Rabbana la taj'alna fitnatan lillazina kafaru waghfir lana Rabbana innaka antal azizul hakim. Our Rabb, make us not a trial for the kuffar, because as we go through the man-made system and we are trying to establish a system, there will be opposition coming from different quarters of the man-made system. And Quran is over here telling us that this is how you should proceed. But provide us protection, our Rabb, for you are Aziz Hakim. I've selected some of these verses because the whole of the Quran can be presented in support of this attribute, because this attribute has appeared in a number of verses in the Quran. Next is, our deeds lead to acquisition of power through development of the self, bringing out the latent potential related to becoming Aziz. And Quran says, فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ مَسَّنَا وَأَهْلَنَا الدُّرُّ وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلَ وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ. Now this, we have covered it in quite a bit of detail under Surah Yusuf, where his brothers who had thrown him into the well had appeared before him, and they did not know that he is Yusuf. And over here they are addressing him and asking for some help and some extra food to be provided to them, that is extra grains to be provided to them. Then when they came in his presence, that is of Yusuf, they said, O Aziz. So over here Yusuf had become Aziz in the light of the attribute of Allah. And we have gone through this aspect in that surah in quite a bit of detail, that what Yusuf went through in order to become Aziz. O Aziz, distress has seized us and our family. We have brought scanty amounts, so pay us full measure and treat it as charity to us. For Allah does reward those who are charitable. The purpose of the creation of human beings is part of an extremely constructive program, and that is defined as Al-Aziz khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala wa huwal azizul ghafur. He has devised the principle of clash between opposing forces in the evolution of the universe, and this law is also functioning in the human world. Now this is quite different from the translations which are given in various copies of the Quran, where it is very straightforward, and it is difficult to, because they relate it to Allah and say that Allah has created death and life, or life and death, in order to assess human beings, evaluate human beings, that how good they do. He has devised the principle of clash between opposing forces in the evolution of the universe, and this law is also functioning in the human world. The individual or nation which keeps the constructive aspects higher in the struggle of life, it remains alive and progresses. The people who follow that path which is put forward by the Quran, then they remain alive and progress. And of course, not only in this world, but their life continues even beyond death. The one which goes against it, its ability to live and progress becomes eliminated, and ultimately it meets death. And this can be taken as metaphorically as well as literally. The death of man himself is also the criterion for evaluating the potentials of his self. So for us as students of the Quran is that have we brought out all the best which we have in the light of the Quran before we are ready to leave this life? Because that will decide that at what higher level of our existence we will have immediately after death. This is that Allah who has control on all of his program, and he keeps it protected from all destruction. So we should be very rest assured that Allah has created all this system in which there is protection inbuilt. Human beings can go to certain limits, but they cannot go beyond certain limits which are defined by the Quran. The Quran puts forward that program which requires power so that the program of Rahmat can be pursued in the human world. And Quran says, Tanzeel Al-Aziz Raheem. It is a revelation sent down by Aziz and Raheem, which means that Allah is powerful to carry out the attribute of Raheem. And that means Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen who becomes Aziz will have to do it in his word. And they will have then the protection of Al-Ghafur as well. Display of power in our daily life. We witness display of power by other people, including those in power, on a continuous basis in our life. They use their choice, make decisions, and then these decisions affect them as well as those around them in the world. And we see that display of power at every level of the human society. Mothers exert power over their children, husbands exert power over their wives, and it goes on within the jobs as well, within corporations, within businesses, people display this attribute of power. At an individual level, we make choices based on our own value system and then make decisions. For example, in our job, in making purchases, in sociability, in our treatment of our children, dealing with friends, in our commitments and agreements. And we can see in commitments and agreements, people also display their power that they, for example, if they make a commitment and do not carry it out, that is a display of their power because they think that they can get away with not making a commitment. Similarly, we see even our children, we will see that they display some kind of a power at a young age as well. Within our family structure, we display power through our expectations, words, body language, display of emotions, for example, anger, disapproval, happiness, approval, appreciation, disgust, hatred, annoyance, frustration, pleasure. Children also display their power within the domain of their influence, for example, friendship, bullying, swearing, manners, creativity, and of course, through better behavior as well. Through delayed gratification and other acquired character traits, we display power over our own self. It is a very deliberate decision-making process. That is, some attraction is in front of us and we can be carried away. For example, in terms of food, we can consume food which is harmful to us, but we are attracted by its color or its sweetness or by some other factors. So we do display power even at an individual level, even under the man-made system. Through voting, we manifest our power at various levels of understanding. Even when we are not aware of our power, we still display it unconsciously. So what Quran is asking is to become very conscious of our own power and how we can bring it under the domain of the Quranic system of values, so that we take a totally different line and different path called Sirat-e-Mustaqim. Through our acquired value system, for example, permanent values, we make decisions on a daily basis. Our thoughts shape our self's outlook. The more we are aware of our own power and its manifestation, the more we become aware about our own self. Because then we will know our own weaknesses, our own vulnerabilities. Wherever we will display wrongly our power to make decisions, then we will realize that we have made a wrong decision. And if we haven't realized that we made a wrong decision, then of course we are not following the Quran. Next is manifesting the attribute of Aziz. Some more points here. Understanding the modus operandi of getting power in the word as explained in the Quran is essential, and to create a desire within us to develop ourselves to a higher level is part of this manifestation process. Manifesting this attribute also requires to keep enhancing our already existing inner strength, for example, resoluteness, determination, perseverance, knowledge, conduct, patience, iman, and checking it against the criterion laid down by the Quran from beginning to the end. In our day-to-day living, we should remain mindful of the functioning of the law of requital and the law of respite. Wherever we need to use our power, for example, cognitive as well as physical, for example, physical can be used to hit someone or to help someone. We use it within the value structure of the Quran, for example, by being Hakeem. That everything we are doing, we should know what effects it is going to have on our tomorrow. That is why Quran has said that each one of you should be aware of what it is sending for its tomorrow. Becoming tolerant of the choices of other human beings and learning to avoid impulsiveness and knee-jerk reactions is part of this manifestation. We need to constantly remind ourselves that I am not responsible for anyone else. If people want guidance, they will seek it. However, I need to pass on the message wherever I can for the development of my own self. This is part of acquiring power. Learn to pause, think, reflect, and then make decisions using the Quranic values, making serious decisions in life through mutual consultation. For example, within the family, both husband and wife need to involve the children if possible. Asking someone who is known to be Quranic can also help. Consult the Quran if required. All this will contribute to the development of the self. Picking up a copy of the Quran and going through it just to find out what it contains for me as well as for the mankind. Avoid being annoyed if someone tries to give any advice or suggestion. Just listen to it, and if it is right, then have enough courage to let others know. That is power of self-control, the power to listen to others, power to understand what others are trying to say, but not, of course, wasting time. This is part of being Aziz. Learn to say no very firmly if required in the light of the permanent values. Next slide is contributing factors which inhibit or becoming powerful. Despite studying the Quran after acquiring Iman and then doing solid deeds, we do not do cross-checking of the changes occurring in ourselves with the criteria of the Quranic value system. Becoming overwhelmed by the power of the man-made system, not relating to Allah being Aziz and Malik. And this is another very important point against we have to guard ourselves, because we are overwhelmed by the man-made system, and these thoughts come to our mind that how it is possible to get power in the light of the Quran. And for that we have to create more power within ourselves, that is, become stronger Aziz with every passing day by looking at the Quran, by looking at the word, and by discussing with each other, and also knowing about the man-made system and its strengths and weaknesses. Not creating a desire to join up with those who are striving on the path of the pure Quran, thus remaining deprived of that state of the human self, which itself becomes an evidence of being Mu'min and Muttaqi. We need verification of the changes taking place within ourselves by mutually consulting each other, and of course by observing each other as well. And wherever we think we can contribute to something positive, we must take an initiative, not wait. Allah is not going to come himself and say and send a wahi to us that you have forgotten to do it because the Quran says do it for your own good. Not being fully cognizant of the wasting of our deeds in this life. If we do not meet the criteria laid down by the Quran with respect to Iman and Salih deeds, then we fail to acquire that self which can help establish the system of Deen. We have gone over this point a number of times before as well, but I thought it is good to remind ourselves. Being a beneficiary of the man-made system, being unwilling and not prepared to give up some of its benefits, and thus stopping short of the desire for the system of Deen. Here one can acquire a good understanding of the Quran, but still not be motivated enough to bring the heart and mind together to realize those latent potentials which are associated with these divine attributes. And these thoughts can cross our mind on this path, that why should I do it? Why should I bother about it? I have learned enough of the Quran. I'm okay. I'm doing good deeds. And that's the end of it. Which essentially means that being the beneficiary of the man-made system, I do not have enough courage, enough determination, enough firmness, inner strength. That is, I'm not that kind of an Aziz which the Quran wants us to become. Some conclusions from today's presentation. Deen as a system can only emerge in this world through the hands of the Mu'mineen on behalf of Allah. If we wish Allah to become Malik Yaum in the world, then we need to follow the book of Allah. And that is another very important point. Do we want Him to be our master, our sovereign, our senior companion? And then we have made the right choice in the light of the Quran. This will lead to the acquisition of power in the land. Once this power is acquired, then it will be displayed on behalf of Allah, who will remain Malik Yawmiddin, because under the system of Deen, Allah will be the Malik and Mu'mineen will be His companions and who will carry out all the responsibilities which Allah has taken on Himself. The Quran points to two forms of acquiring power in the world: through the power structure put in place by the man-made system, or through the value system of the Quran. We need to be very clear about both and then make choice for either of these paths. Wherever the Quran refers to Allah being Aziz, we need to see the context and then ask the question, what is in it for me or Deen? By virtue of possessing a self with choice and intent, every human being has some inherent power which is needed for making decisions and to get through the physical existence in the world. So from today's presentation, we can learn one thing, that wherever we are displaying power, we should come to terms with our own ability to display that power, that manifest that power in the world, and say, am I using it in the light of the Quran towards the system of Deen on behalf of Allah? We need as much knowledge as possible about the structure of power existing in the world. The Quran gives us the option to enhance this inherent power to become Aziz by making Allah's attributes as our model. So studying this power structure, or that is Aziz structure in the world, is also important, that how does it work within the man-made system and why are they not making use of it correctly? Can they make use of it correctly without the Quran? And these kind of questions, once those are answered, we will see that it will add strength to our own conviction that the only path available to us is that of the Quran. This is placed within our easy reach if we understand it through Iman and Salih deeds and by coming together with those who also wish to become Aziz. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.